It is once again time for the Recruiting Insider here on OB Live. Our normal recruiting insider, Jason Sukamel, is trying his luck in Vegas. Good luck to him. But there is no better person to talk recruiting with than this guy. It is Jeff Ketchum, owner
I'm
of
the original recruiting insider.
He's been recruiting. Trust me. He's been talking recruiting longer than anyone, and he's the OG OB recruiting insider. So, of course, that's who you bring in when Jason can't do it. We're going to talk about some portal stuff today. Shout out to Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'll tell you more about John and his crew as we move along. Texas gets to the point of this season where they get to exhale a little bit. Bye week number 1. We're right in the middle of it. When you think of portal for the Texas Longhorns right now, what jumps to your mind?
I wonder if they did enough. I mean, I think that a third of the way through the season, I think there is the ability for us to make a little bit of an assessment on, did they get everything right? They took some chances. Where has it all come together? Where has it not? And I think, and then the question is, did they make any mistakes in building this team together this year that they won't make again? Or have they done something that they'll look at next season and go, we absolutely have to reapply ourselves exactly like that? I think the fact that it's a one-window portal, although Oklahoma State's got a bunch of players that'll be available for the next month. Weird.
Those 30-day portals will still exist when you have the coaching changes.
Hey, man, you want to maximize your value? Be the first freaking guy in the portal at a need position.
Yep.
I don't know that you can leverage your position better than to be a pretty good player at a premium position and be like, hey, guys, I'm here if you need help. Not now, but next year you can get that completely taken care of. I don't even know if Oklahoma State has any of those players. They're pretty wretched.
And even though you can't officially get into the portal until this January window, we all know how the game works, Catch. There'll be feelers out.
No, but the Oklahoma State guys
quickly. Right. They get you're right. They get the 30-day. That's right. They get the 30-day window to get in, and then
they'll have another one in January if they want to.
Right. Then they'll get another one. Now, these guys are 30 days, but they couldn't play this season, right?
No, correct.
Right. They got to be, okay.
It'd be a hell of a situation. Although, man, I feel like if they threaten a lawsuit.
Right. No, you're right. They might.
You could have a new starting quarterback if you needed one. Oklahoma, just go knock on Oklahoma State's door and have somebody threaten a lawsuit. The NCAA hates those. No, I look at this Texas team, Chad. I think leading into the season, I think Texas behind the scenes felt like they had an A+ offseason in the portal. And I liked what they did. I think move by move, you can, in a vacuum, explain each move. All the way down to the last guy they offered a scholarship to was Matthew Caldwell. And he is the backup quarterback on this team right now. So that doesn't feel like a wasted scholarship. But I don't know that they went after all of the needs they've eventually found themselves having. And I think the most obvious one is they lack some juice at wide receiver. And you can look all across the country at teams that added breathtaking, game-changing speed to their wide receiver units. And Texas really, with all due respect to Emmett Mosley, who comes in late, but wasn't that kind of player anyway.
Yeah. Plus, you just haven't seen it at all, right? I mean, the fans have not seen one instant of it. They have no clue what it is.
But he's not that guy either, though. He is more Parker Livingston than he is
Ryan Williams
or any fast guy that, is really fast, because Texas has the last few years really built its offense around the idea of, we got a bunch of 4-3 dudes that will run you away. Like, they'll run away from you, whether it was Jaden Blue or Xavier Worthy or Adonai Mitchell or Matthew Golden or Isaiah Bond. Like, it's been a 4x1 of track guys. And we've seen it at the combine, and this offense lacks that. They lack it at running back, but they really, I think, miss it at wide receiver. They don't have the Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, the receivers that I mentioned. All those guys were 4-3 guys, and doesn't feel like they have that suddenness. I think they banked on, we've got a badass wide receiver group coming in from the high school ranks. We promised those guys that we weren't going to cut their legs out from underneath them by bringing in older guys to block their pathway. How have they been rewarded for that? There's really not a freshman who's proven that they warrant being in a real rotation on a national championship contending team. Yeah. And I think that was a gamble that Texas took, giving those young receivers, thinking somebody will step up. Yeah. And in the end, it hasn't happened yet. And it feels like Texas is vulnerable at a position that it hasn't been vulnerable since it decided to start making the portal window a major area. I think Sark started to hear from, look, I know there's a trainer that recruits or that trains wide receivers that was like, I'll never tell any of my kids to go to Texas because the moment they get there, a transfer guy will come in and he's like, you think we didn't notice that last year a guy like Jonte Cook thinks he's going to be a starter, and then in comes Bond, and then in comes Golden, and then in comes Bolden, and it kept stacking up. And the word was out, hey, should you go to Texas if you're a 5-star wide receiver? Well, what did Texas do? They got a whole bunch of them. They got 3 guys that had 5-star ratings from somebody, but none of those guys have hit the field. And when you're Texas and you're playing for a national championship this season, and you got the word out, hey, we're all in like Ohio State was last year on this season, I think there are a couple of positions they didn't go after hard enough. I think they misjudged things. And I do think it will impact what we see them do in January. I don't think Steve Sarkisian will ever make the mistake he did at I think one time. It worked beautifully for him in 2023 and 2024. He literally poached first-round level talent from teams in the SEC.
Yeah, if he had his choice between those two situations, because they're kind of the inverse of each other that you just laid out, you got to go with the first version, even though that makes Jonte Cook mad, and he could argue he didn't get his chance, but it's got to be better than this, where you, like you said, you'd say to those 3 freshmen, well, it's 4 freshmen. You say to the 4 freshmen, somebody be a badass. One of them's been all right. The other 3 have really not made a dent.
It's kind of as simple as that.
Yeah.
And I think Steve Sarkisian's been a high school recruiting guy since the day he showed up. It's in his bones. Mm-hmm. Push comes to shove. He has always wanted to lean high school more than the portal. But I think he's evolving. And I think if they don't accomplish their look, if they win a national championship this year, play for a national championship, get close again, and those freshmen evolve and like start to mature, and by the end of the year they're making plays, then you're going to say, well, that's going to pay off next year. And so, we got a portal guy, potentially that guy's in and he's out, and we're having to constantly shuffle it in. They go and get a strong high school class. The problem is, man, we haven't even seen anything from this current high school group that's now true freshmen that would make us go, that guy's definitely a starter next year. And we did think that with Ryan Wingo a year ago. Now, maybe we thought a little bit with Dalen McCutcheon. Maybe.
He's the one right now.
But couldn't want to pass.
The other thing is, before we leave the position, in your mind, the combo of whatever Mosley's going to be and injuries, like for you, could that help counterweight this thing? Like, is that how you're going to ultimately judge it? It's those 2 guys combined, or do you consider the tight end thing totally separate?
I think it's a pass-fail class.
Okay.
Either at the end, because we haven't even gotten to the offensive line discussion.
Right.
And kind of where they are there.
But we obviously, you can agree it's a big hit for them on the tight end front, and that's going to help in the pass catching. But, does it counteract everything we're talking about? I don't know.
I think, look, let's reverse engineer this for a second. Texas, let's start with the high school kids. And because I think there's an interesting story to tell that nobody's talking about yet. But it's been on my brain. which is crazy that you and I haven't done a show because, if I'm just hiding this in my hip pocket for the day that I'm going to sit in on the Recruiting Insider brought to you by Longhorn Wealth Management, maybe.
Well, yes, there you go. Actually, hold
that thought, Chad. Pay a bill.
Hold that thought. Let me tell them about Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Let me throw this Longhorn up since Catch is going to give me that good of a segue. John wants everybody and Catch to know 2002. This is how old we all are. John's been on orangebloods.com since 2002, and he's been doing what he's doing with Longhorn Wealth Management Group for over 30 years. He was thrilled about 55-0. It was even bigger than what he predicted. To celebrate the big win, he's got this free 90-minute private consultation just waiting on you. Learn how working with a certified financial planner can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. Yeah, John had like a 41-6, something like that last week. He was thrilled at the 55-0. Okay, Catch, we got that one done. We'll tell him a little more about John in a little while. So what's been on your brain?
Well, Texas signed an incredibly much ballyhooed number 1 overall recruiting class in the country. And quite frankly, it signed a portal class that I don't think has made a big enough contribution so far. Now, maybe it can change. We'll circle back to what they did in a second. Okay. Let's talk about the number 1 ranked recruiting class. Mm-hmm. Of an entire number 1 ranked recruiting class. The number of players currently making a major impact on the field in the first third of the season, how long does it take to make that roll call?
I can think of one for sure.
Grayson Littleton.
Is that the list?
That's the list.
Yeah. I mean, and Dalen McCutcheon, but it's way down a list. If in terms of impact,
McCutcheon's
right?
not an impact player. He's not. Like
right.
we're watering down the words. Like Dalen McCutcheon hasn't done enough. He's caught a pass.
Yeah,
but
no, I would agree.
At no point would I be like, oh, well, they shouldn't go into the portal next year for a receiver because if you've seen Dalen McCutcheon, like that ain't happening.
You're right. Yeah, it's Littleton.
Now, I'm not saying it won't happen by the end of the year, but I'm saying it is not insignificant that because what we've got are streams that aren't supposed to cross that kind of are. Texas has a stream going one way. And in that way, it is an announced motto of we're all in on 2025. How all in? We'll go get a defensive tackle from Georgia, 5 stars, and we will break the bank to do it, and Georgia won't even be able to respond. What do you mean? We're going to sign the number 1 ranked recruiting class. You know how many 5 stars that takes? You know how many super blue chips it takes? A lot. We're going to do it. We're going to get them all over the place. Positions here, there, everywhere. And then you go into it. And oh, by the way, we're doing it because we want to win a national championship in 2025. It was expensive to put that class together. And we're not far from the midway point of the season. And they've got one player from, because it doesn't get any better than number 1 ranked in the country, Chad. Mm-hmm. One player. I think it's very telling. If I was Sarkisian and it's the bye week and I'm doing a little bit of self-evaluation, I literally would go, what the fuck am I taking high school kids for?
What did it need?
If I bring in a number 1 ranked recruiting class,
I get
none of them can get on the field because we've recruited at such a level that freshmen can't get on, then you have to change your philosophy to a certain degree moving forward.
Overall, give me a philosophy here. Through 4 games that you've seen, and we know 2 of them were clunky at home that we didn't expect. What's reasonable for you right now before the Florida game, going into an off week? What's the number you would have liked to have seen where you go, hey, now, number 1 class? What's the number?
I think they needed to take like 5 more portal guys.
No. Guys making.
I'm taking whatever the fuck that high school number is, and I'm lopping 5 of them off, and that's it.
Right. But I'm saying the number you would have expected to be able to say, hey, these guys have made an impact? Is it like 3?
Oh, a half dozen.
Okay. You're looking for 6 guys to have flashed by now.
None of the 5 stars are playing.
Yeah.
None of them.
Has Terry played at all?
What's that?
Has Justice Terry played at all?
Yeah, he's a couple snaps.
A little bit? Okay.
I don't mean they haven't gotten token on the field participation medals.
Right.
I mean, they're not getting up. Lance Jackson is close to entering. Matter of fact, I'll allow there's 2.
Okay. That's probably
Lance
fair.
Jackson and Littleton, but there's nobody on offense.
No.
There's nobody at defensive tackle, which was the biggest offseason need in the program. And look, what did they do? They went to the portal. Has that paid off for them? In a big, big way, in a way that had they done it wide receiver, what they've done at the – maybe Casey Concepcion is with them. Maybe Eric Singleton's at Texas instead of Auburn. Maybe they go, we got to go out by any – maybe they pay Emmanuel Pregnon to be an offensive line portal guy because they realize later there's not going to be a second chance. One chance to get a guy like that. They kind of gambled that there would be another, and I think it backfired on them.
Yeah.
I think from a high school football recruiting standpoint, maybe instead of 20, you're taking 15.
And you're leaving 5 other spots. And now you also know moving forward, you've got to be, there's no more this portal, that portal. Like we discussed, when a team does fire their coach and stuff, there's that 30-day window. But it's one 10-day window every time. You don't have to worry about the spring part. And you better be ready to go. We've seen them 2 straight times here, Catch, in that winter. Now it's going to be the only portal in that time frame where it feels like they don't quite hit the accelerator, right? They don't really go after. And if I'm a Texas fan, I'm watching a lot of those guys you just mentioned play. A&M's going to play Auburn this week. Those receivers are playing at the same time. I've peeked in on Oregon, and Pregnon is visible. You see him. You can see him playing. Obviously, there's Fasusi at Oklahoma, but that's the recruiting side.
Well, and we haven't even mentioned they needed a running back, and they ran out of numbers that they never really felt like we can make that a priority. I think internally they felt like we don't have enough numbers, really. And I think at some point also there's this idea of like, how many of these guys do we bring in? Does it break up the continuity of one of the elephants in the room with this roster is how young it is. That it's only got a smattering of seniors and it's got the exact same number of juniors, that 60 of the 85 are underclassmen. Now, if you bring in more portal guys, it allows you to get a little older, which on a championship team I think matters. But I don't think that Texas, I think this. I don't think Texas left themselves enough space and I thought it was interesting that Sark for the first time in the last week and a half, I think it was last Thursday's press briefing, where he specifically mentioned, we only have 85 and we're not like other conferences right now. That was the first time he's mentioned kind of would have liked to have a little bit more than 85. But, Coach, you had enough to give a walk on a scholarship. And that guy's not playing, and you could have used a running back, a wide receiver, an interior offensive lineman. They didn't place enough stress of urgency on those positions, and I don't think they'll ever let that happen again.
It is wild to me that it is on the offensive side that we're discussing so much, and I wonder, Catch, is that because it's his side of the ball and he trusts his own ability to develop? Is that what it is, where he didn't want to go after something a little more sudden at running back, receiver, and then obviously the offensive line is a separate issue, but is that what it is? Because he certainly addressed the other side of the ball, and it has paid dividends, as you mentioned, with all those defensive linemen, but not on his side of the ball. It's just weird.
Well, and I also think, real quick, because I think this is really important, because Texas went weak in the portal in December last year. Right now, let's count the number of portal guys who are making a real impact year one. Mm-hmm. Nobody at quarterback. I mean, with all due respect to Matthew Caldwell, if somebody wants to add, when we're done with this exercise, if somebody wants to say he is the backup quarterback, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about when Texas plays Oklahoma in a few weeks or goes to Gainesville, who's being counted on to be there and make a contribution that night?
Yeah.
Nobody at quarterback, nobody at running back, nobody at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Jack injuries.
Definitely injuries.
No offensive lineman.
Mm-mm.
Maybe all 4 defensive tackles.
I was going to say, you got what? Watson, Canoe, Shaw. Who am I missing? Brevard. That's 5.
I don't think there's anybody else, though, because Spence is a non-factor, really. I mean, he is not.
He hasn't been right. No super impact.
I mean, if you because my point is what Texas did is they went shopping at really good and they didn't go shopping in the great section. There's not one guy that they signed that was regarded as a national top 25 to 50 type prospect. Whereas they were getting those guys. Trey Moore was that kind of guy a year ago. Isaiah Bond was that kind of guy a year ago.
You're saying injuries wasn't that level for you? He wasn't rated that high?
I not me.
Okay.
I'm talking about the rate everywhere else. Matter of fact, while we're talking about it, I can pull it up and look at like what the rankings were.
I mean, being a tight end, I could see that he wouldn't end up in the top 20 or 25 guys overall.
Yeah. I mean, they just
he's at Cal.
They shopped expensive in recruiting, didn't get really anything from it yet. They went a little more budget conscious in the portal. They did not go to the mattresses for Emmanuel Pregnon in a way that I think they would have if that guy enters the portal in April. They hoped, well, this guy will he'll come back. We'll get another one. We won't get him, but we'll get somebody. And in the end, they didn't even bring anybody in for visits. It just, it was just one of those things where it's like not good enough. And I think they just left a lot of meat on the bone. I think the question that you ask is really interesting, and ultimately the answer has to be someone has to ask Sark what his mindset was. Sark, for the first time this offseason, you didn't go get a fast guy from the portal. You didn't replace Jaden Blue. You didn't get any offensive linemen. Can you walk us through the decision-making process of who you wanted to target and who you didn't want to target in the portal, and maybe just explain why the offense wasn't as big of a need as the defense? It's a fair question. I think it is an elephant in the room question. And, I'm looking at the Rivals portal rankings right now. Texas finished 17th in the country. And that's a spot better than SMU and one spot less than A&M. It's less than Cincinnati.
Wow. And this is strictly portal, right? No, this is not high school at all.
Correct. And if you look at the teams that were in the portal, I'm going to read off the top 6 schools in the country right now from the portal this year.
Okay.
Tell me how many losses they each have, okay?
All right.
Texas Tech.
I don't think they've lost a game.
LSU.
No, they're still undefeated.
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss is undefeated, about to play LSU.
Oregon.
Oregon's undefeated.
Miami.
Miami undefeated.
Missouri.
Missouri's undefeated. Yeah. How about that?
And just so you know, I'm looking at the On3 Rivals rankings. Those schools are in the green.
Yeah.
It changes. It goes to a gray color, the index score.
Green to gray. Okay.
And guess who's in the gray?
Texas. Wow. Okay.
And it doesn't seem like gray is terrible, but it's gray.
So Texas, who else is around them? You said A&M's right there with them?
The gray list starts at 9, where it's Rutgers, Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, Kentucky, Indiana, Cincinnati, A&M, Texas. Texas took 11, so they didn't take as much as some of those other schools, but no 5 stars. I believe a total of 4 stars, but that's not that big of a deal. It's not. It really is about who is a real difference maker. And Texas didn't have those guys. And, I think that it just kind of is what it is. I mean, if I'm looking at the national rankings, I'm looking at the rival. I guess it would be the On3 rivals rankings. This would be like the consensus type deal.
Mm-hmm.
The 4-star guys that they signed, Emmett Mosley, we haven't seen. Murad Watson, they had him ranked as the 97th. Just not ranked real high coming out of Syracuse, but he's been a good player.
Right, been good.
But not an impact.
No, he's a guy I really want to see in SEC play because some of that stuff against Ohio State is hard to forget.
Brad Spence and then Jack Injuries, and that's it.
Yeah.
And like that, they're not considering what they've gotten first-round talent. I don't even think they've gotten a Trey Moore, really. I guess that defensive tackle positions, you'd have to say that's a home run. That collectively that group is really doing what they're being asked to do.
They're holding up well, yeah.
But look, if we look down, let's just run them out. There's not that many. Matthew Caldwell, again, Murad Watson. Mason Shipley's the home run, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, we haven't, and that's a guy when you're
him.
Yeah.
But
and that's certainly a guy they're going to count on, right? I mean, obviously.
And I guess Boomeister, we have to, like the special teams, we haven't given their due.
Right.
A year ago, we were begging for them to go into the portal and do what they did this year. I think they've been rewarded. I think that if you're Steve Sarkisian and you ever do anything other than go find a portal punter and kicker every year, you're doing it wrong.
Agreed.
And then you've got Jack Injuries, Levon Johnson, Emmett Mosley, Hero Canoe, Travis Shaw, Brad Spence, Cole Brevard. That's it of the position players.
Yeah.
So what you end up having is a recruiting class because they're so young, they can't get on the field on this team. And then you didn't take enough guys that could actually play this year. So what you ended up doing was taking a massive group of incoming players, more than 30, 35 players, something like that, right? Maybe closer to 31, 32. I'm trying to remember how many people total. There are 11 transfers. I have to go back and look at how many guys they signed in the high school ranks, but it was 20-something. You sign this huge pool of players that represents 40% of your roster, and very few of them are making an impact on a season that you're trying to win a national championship. And I just think that Sarkisian and his front office staff, he and Brandon Harris will sit down and go, we're not getting enough. Why? What did we do that left us in a position to have as much success as we did in recruiting? Get as many big-time guys as we did in recruiting. Spend as much money as we did in recruiting, both in the portal and in the high school ranks, to not, as we get ready to go into the middle part of the season and SEC play starts, we can count on one hand the number of players from both pools combined, not including the defensive tackles. I guess that's not fair. But even then, like the idea that you're getting 5, 6, 7 contributors and 4 of them are at one position, you get an attaboy for like, hey, way to go after those defensive tackles. But when you look at the rest of the positions, it's like, well, why didn't you do a little bit of that at the offense? Why were you so aggressive at a position on defense that was obviously in need of some elevated talent? The same thing was screaming at you in the face on the offensive line, and you were like, we're good. Had they taken the approach on the defensive line that they did on the offensive line, you know who he's starting right now for Texas?
Alex January and somebody.
He'd be like Alex January. Remember Aaron Bryant? He transferred.
Yeah.
You know, you got like Sawyer Gordon Welch is at Coastal Carolina starting. Remember you had the big guy that transferred to LSU and didn't even make it 5 minutes. The big guy, the nose tackle, whose name I'm forgetting already because
right, yeah.
At either school long. But like what they had were bums, and they replaced them.
Yeah.
On the offensive side, they had the same questions, the same, can we really in a championship year put all of our faith in the yes, it comes together? And I think only somebody who's lying to themselves would say that what they did was the right approach, because this offensive line and this offense as a whole are major. It is the thing. If anything holds them back, this will be it.
Yeah, and to do that around not only this season in itself, but of course to do this when Arch Manning is your quarterback, that's going to be a question too, because you knew that. You knew it was Arch Manning. You knew protecting Arch Manning was a huge deal, and you knew getting him weaponry would be a huge deal. We'll continue the discussion. Let me tell you one more time about Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's up there in the Dallas area, of course, the Collin County chapter, and he was obviously pumped about the recruits that came in for some visits, names like Cooper and James and Atkinson and Matthews and all that. Also, he'd love to see some possible flips. Lott, 27 quarterback target, Bryant. He's following closely, like a lot of you are. John also wants to remind you, OB Live folks, September is Life Insurance Awareness Month. So if you want to review your current life insurance policies, make sure your loved ones are fully protected. That free 90-minute private consultation can really help you out. Have a certified financial planner analyze your policies and your life insurance needs. Be sure all your family's financial dreams will continue as desired, even if something happens to you. Call 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. Shout out to John and his crew for being our sponsor each and every week here on the Recruiting Insider. We debut on Wednesdays at 10 a.m., whether you're listening in that hour or whenever you check us out. We appreciate it. So catch kind of a follow-up thought to what you were discussing here with Sark and the way he attacked this portal, the way they went after it and didn't, in certain ways. Could part of it also be like you've pointed this out recently? This team just went to 2 straight semis with defenses that held up in big moments when they needed to along the way. So is it possible that was Sark's focus, again, thinking that he could figure out whatever it was on offense without like adding players, and he really just wanted to focus defense because it's SEC and, all that?
I mean, I don't know. He's never talked about it. This is not – we've reached a level in college football where the talk of team building is very similar to the NFL, right? When you go into the draft, you draft for need. You draft for a position of best player available. And then if you do best player available, like, hey, maybe Des Bryant's available and you have to you just take that wide receiver because you didn't think he was going to be there. But then,
right.
You end up doing things like trading Micah Parsons. And one of the reasons why you make the trade is you're like, we ain't got defensive tackles. So can you just give us a defensive tackle and a
right.
So, Jerry doesn't get to do a conversation where they're not asked about what was your line of thinking. And what happens, a lot of times we hear them talk about the line of thinking.
Yeah.
And we go, we're never winning a Super Bowl, ever.
Yeah,
never
right.
happen.
Exactly.
And it was like when the Netflix thing came out and Jerry and Steven were sitting there debating, like, what do we think makes a good coach? And it was like, oh, I guess if you guys just have another 35 years, you guys will figure it out.
Right. Well, but it's interesting, though, in this world, Catch, that we're talking about, think about it. There's no press conference for, like, just the transfer portal.
Well, Brandon Harris has never been interviewed.
So there's never a moment. But even for Sark, right, you're going through the end of a season, you hope, and then by the time you'd get back around to, the next season to ask him about his thought process there, you're going to have to find the right time. And the right moment.
Now is the right time while they're in the middle of watching the meal being made. Yeah. I think getting real-time thoughts on Sark and it's what killed me about yesterday's press conference.
I was going to say, didn't you hear all the badass questions, Catch? There was not any room for the mess you're talking about.
It's a bye week because you can do things like say, Sark, September's over, really.
Mm-hmm.
You've had your preseason's what you called it. So now that the preseason is over and you've had a third of the season sample size, any thoughts on like what you got right and what you maybe didn't get right from a portal approach standpoint this offseason now that you've seen your team play?
Yeah, would have been a good question. Now, to be fair, Catch, that's not a better question to me than how important is confidence, but it's a good question.
So the person that said that's probably why. I'm sorry that Chad just called you out again. I promise I won't do it myself. But like,
Sorry. How important is confidence? Woo!
And again, the thing that pissed me off about that is that Sark spent like 4 minutes talking about that because why wouldn't you?
He ate that up like dessert.
Because someone might ask about the portal.
He ate that up like when someone would ask Mac Brown what kind of kid a player was.
Hey, Mac, can you talk about like how the importance of mamas to you in recruiting?
I love them. Love them. Thank you. Get comfortable. 10 minutes.
I'm always talking to the mamas, not you, not you, Jeff and Chad.
Love the mamas.
You guys show up, but I'm not talking to you. I think that this is not a question that head coaches in college football are used to getting. Hey, explain yourself.
Right.
But I think it's where we're headed. And at schools like Oklahoma, where the general manager is much more on the front foot and kind of like the talking piece of the program, those things probably get like we've talked about. Can't believe that dude said that, right? We've said that about absolutely. Oklahoma's general manager. And so Sark might say, I don't have Brandon Harris do interviews. So for that exact reason.
Yeah, because it's going to go viral if he says something weird.
Brandon's going to be like, oh, we're just not going to recruit guys, whatever. Like he'll say something. But if that's the case, then Sark's got to be the guy that kind of takes all of those questions. There's no right time because you're right. We didn't get a real portal. And I would contend that the question that we're asking now can't be asked in August or July or June.
Right.
Can only be asked once you've had a large enough sample size that you can look. And if he were to say, Chad, totally fair question. I get why you're asking it. The answer is probably no at this point. But we think there's a ton of extenuating circumstances. You start naming, Emmett Mosley, we think.
Right, we got more there's more football coming. There's injury, which brings me to this catch. Is it possible that what you're doing is basically inventing the most perfect question to ask during bye weeks? We've got number one and they missed the opportunity, but there's a bye week 2 coming up and it's right before they play Georgia.
I think it's a question that until it gets asked needs to be asked.
The week of September, they play November 1st against Vanderbilt. And that next week leads into that off week. And Georgia's the next game. We'll know a lot by then. There'll be how many games left? 3? Georgia, Arkansas, A&M, and that's all that'll be left. There will be 9 games played. Attention, assembled Longhorn media. Somebody needs to ask a portal question so Ketch can get his answer.
This is the thing that pisses me off. No one will ask that. No one will ask that question. Why? Because it hasn't happened yet. But every person in that room would take that answer and it would be the lead of whatever they talk about. And that's why it pisses me off. Because you need to be asking questions that everybody in the room goes, oh, the most selfish. I saw someone today write I don't mean to call anybody out. It was the first question of the day. Sark, what are you doing with your staff in recruiting? Mm-hmm. I didn't hate the question because if you're ever going to ask that question, it's a bye week. I don't like it as the first question.
Right. But yeah, there's an immediacy to it because that's exactly what they're doing this week. I got the question.
But he answered that question by saying, well, we're going to put Chris Gilbert on the road, but that's about it. That's different. And he's like, some guys won't even go out because we'll want to save days. So we'll probably decide that kind of on the fly. But ultimately the answer was Chris Gilbert. Yeah. And you knew that before you asked the question. So then I saw that story today written and I was like, wait a minute. I heard the press conference. This is the most boring ass. You just wrote you committed yourself to writing that story.
Yeah.
And you got a great headline, right? It made me want to click on it. What is Sark switching up in recruiting? But instead, I know because I listened, the money shot is, Chris Gilbert will go out. That's about it.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else? Nah. Nobody that I'm going to tell you.
Nobody that's a part of this answer, no.
Did you hear me stutter? No, there's really nobody else.
Not
And
really.
so anyway, I of all the questions that were asked, I didn't hate that question, but it was such a narrow and specific, like someone asked that question because they're writing that specific story.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with those kinds of questions being asked, really and truly. I'm not, because I don't even remember who asked it, so I'm not nitpicking it that much. Believe me, Chad and I had some issues with questions. It wasn't that one. But that question is not for the room. That question is for a very specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And when key things don't get asked, like, hey, can you give us an update on the injury front?
Right.
Everything's gonna play. Now, the good news is we will get an injury report next week.
Got to. Right. SEC is forcing them.
We still haven't heard him say publicly what Trey Wisner injury is. And like somebody could have asked,
Right.
hey, coach, next week you're gonna have to put it out anyway. What exactly is it that he's recovering? Is it a hamstring? And is it growing? Like,
right. What's he dealing with?
The question we're asking is how much are you going to push the player? Like what body part is hurt is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So is it a grade 1? Is it a grade 2? Or you're not going to tell us that? Because we should ask. Right. If he doesn't answer, he doesn't answer. If the press conference ends and it's like, hey, did you find out like what the holdup is for Trey Wisner? No. Well, why not? I had to ask a question about confidence. Like
it's one of the tricks, Catch, that these coaches have figured out how to play on the media. I don't even know if they try to do it. Over time, what they do is they condition the media to not ask a question because they think they know what the answer is going to be, and they just move on.
You're right.
That's exactly whether they mean to or not. That's exactly what they do. Because when we have ever asked those folks, well, why wouldn't you ask that? It's like, because I know what he's going to say. And it's like,
But
okay.
In Dallas, the Cowboys head coach still has to be asked the question.
Right. The NFL media groups will still ask the question 3 times.
And I won't end here, but like, it makes me sad because I promise you when a press conference starts, and last Thursday's, what did I say? I thought that was the most informative Thursday press conference we've ever seen from Sark.
Yeah.
I gave everybody attaboys. I don't go to those things wanting to like be mad. But, you know, like if they just let Anwar and Bowles ask all the questions, everything would get asked.
Yeah.
But that's not what they do. Bowles and Anwar get one question.
Yeah, they're trying to spread things out. And
you can't be a selfish bitch. And like, I'm just not going to ask. And then the people were the questions. I'm about to go into some bad Bill Cosby. When the people get the question and then they aren't ready to ask and answer.
There it is.
And you know who it is. There's a couple of people that every time it's their turn to ask a question, they literally invent it on the fly. They're like, yeah. So running backs. They good?
Like what?
Don't raise your hand.
Yeah. All right.
Hey,
all right.
When Chad and I would go to the press conferences together, full confession, back in the Mac days, Chad will tell you, I didn't raise my hand and ask a lot of questions. But when a question had to be asked, I would ask it, and Mac would be like, oh, here we go.
Here we go. Here comes
Here we go. I would be like, I will sit back and I want to listen and observe. But we get like 10 minutes in and nobody's asked like the question. I'll ask the question.
Yeah.
So I don't, because somebody has to do it. And it just, it alarms me that you got this many people covering a program that we treat like a pro football franchise.
Yeah.
And too much of the media treats it like it's the goddamn Boy Scouts. I'll just be quiet. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rant
All
over.
right. Catch anything else recruiting wise you want to hit before we wrap up?
No, that was a good therapy. Tuesday's therapy day for me, Chad. Didn't get to go see my therapist today. This turned into apparently a Texas Longhorn media therapist session that I had. Thank you. Do I send Like an hour's? Like, do I send a rate to you?
You can send a rate. Yes, you can send that to me. We'll let you. We'll haggle on the price. Shout out to Longhorn Wealth Management Group and John for being our sponsor every week. Recruiting never stops. That's why we have the Insider each and every Wednesday, debuting at 10 a.m. Check out all the other great content this week, and we will talk to you next Wednesday on the Recruiting Insider. This is Orange Bloods Live. Y'all take care. See ya.